that what do we call it? The tomahawk thing?
No, that's another picture.
Okay, so there was this zoo that was advertising that they've reached the coming of Moshiach. Moshiach has come in their zoo. They're ready for Moshiach.
I'm going.
And they had a wolf with a lamb in peace together. And there was a tourist visiting. It didn't make sense to him that Moshiach had come into the zoo because he knew that in his own life Moshiach hadn't come. So, but he sees, sure enough, there's a cage and there's a wolf and there's a lamb, and they're looking like they're having a great time over there. So he really, his curiosity got the better of him. He had to know what's going on. So he bribed one of the employees at the zoo, and he asked him, "How do you guys do the wolf and the lamb thing? How does tell me the trick?" It's very simple. Every hour we get another lamb. There is a word in English based upon the novel Utopia. What's utopia mean? Utopia is a story about this wonderful world, that there's no suffering or sadness in this world. There's no lawyers in this world, no policemen in this world. Because everyone just gets along, everyone is healthy and they wealthy, yes. And everyone has respect for everyone else's space. Everyone has their own table over there for Bais Bezalel. Everyone has their own. Anyway, so the problem with the word utopia.
Always a chazan ready.
There's always a chazan ready to sign 15 million, exactly. Oh, give me a home. Anyways, so what happens is that this world is so wonderful and beautiful, but the problem is come here, Abraham. The problem is that the word utopia also means a place that does not exist. That's what utopia.
Yeah,
doesn't exist. So, but the truth is that this week we are reading the Torah about something, about the promises of all these blessings that will happen to the Jewish people, happen to the world, about the coming of Moshiach. The Torah starts off this week with amazing brachas. And Vishbati Chai Rab in the Aretz, Rabbi Shimon Yochai says it means literally there won't be any more animals, there won't be any more predators. Animals will get along, the wolf will be with the lamb, and no one will, no animal will hurt another animal.
So what are they going to eat?
Vegetables. So,
or vegetables.
Actually, the Radak says, what are the Californian animals going to do, you're saying? The Radak says interesting thing. He says, when God created the world, all animals must have not been predatory. How did you know that? Because when God made the world, He made each species only pair, male and female. So if there were predators, then there wouldn't be any animals existing today. So it must be that when animals were created, they were all vegetarians. So the question is like this: we talk about Moshiach in a very natural way. Mashiach's going to come. We say it 3 times a day in our davening, Tchias HaMesim, Baruch Shem Chai HaMesim, Hashem will resurrect the dead. We talk about it as if it's a fact of life that we've seen and experienced all the time. But it seems that there could be a dichotomy or a dissonance between the way we think and the way we feel. The way Mashiach's going to come, for sure. So that means you actually are thinking that there's going to be the Tchias HaMesim, and you're going to speak to Avraham Avinu tonight, and Yitzchak tonight. It's something real. But it's not always real. It's not always easy to cultivate an actual perception of life that's actually going to be that way. They say a story about people of Chelm. People of Chelm were afraid that Moshiach will come, they'll get stuck, they won't be ready. So they hired this guy to stand on the roof of the synagogue. So when Moshiach will come, he'll tell everybody Moshiach is coming, so everyone will make sure to get dressed in the Shabbos clothes. They'll be the first ones to know Moshiach is coming because this guy was standing on the roof of the synagogue and he'll tell everyone Moshiach is going to come. So the guy's standing on the roof for a couple of weeks, and a couple of months, and a year, and someone says to him, "Hey, how are you enjoying your job?" He says, "Pretty boring, but great job security." Shalom. So the question is that how do we really identify with the coming of Mashiach in an intellectual way? Yeah, a Jew has an neshama. We're born with a belief in Hashem in our hearts and our souls. But how do we come to terms with Mashiach from the perspective of our mind? What where exactly is Moshiach going to come, and how is he going to enter the world? I mean, Moshiach's coming means the world's going to be perfect. There won't be any sickness or suffering or sadness. Not only the animals get along, people are going to get along. It's a much bigger.
That's a bigger miracle.
Of course, it's a bigger miracle. And there'll be any egos. There'll be any, and he did.
Wait a minute.
How are we supposed to cultivate that kind of a perspective? What's going to cause that to happen? What's the key that's going to change everything in the world? Or all of a sudden, everything is going to change. Everything's going to. What's going to happen exactly? Where exactly is the change going to start in? That's going to cause this tremendous change in the whole world. Where does it begin? Where does it end? The opening verse of this week's Torah portion, if you will keep my mitzvahs, is actually talking about the coming of Moshiach. The word if, it's a request. Hashem is begging us, please, I want something to happen, and I want you to keep my mitzvahs. I want to give you brachas. The word is an acronym for all of the people that saved the Jewish people in every single story in history. Stands for Moshe and Aaron, Aleph Mem, who saved us from Egypt. Aleph Mem also stands for Mordechai and Esther, who saved us in time of story of Purim. Aleph Mem is also the acronym for Matasyahu and Elazar in the story of Hanukkah. And Aleph Mem also stands for them again, exactly.
Yes. See, some people listen.
You do that one different.
Elyo Moshiach. Huh?
Moshiach and Elyo.
All right.
Because everyone you did, Moshe, you did the man first.
Fine. Just let them come and we'll let them explain to us. So and the Torah doesn't just talk about Mashiach in a general way. The whole system, the Torah presents the brachas. It's clear that the Torah is giving us big stuff. If you notice,
Moshe and
Avram. So the opening letter of the Torah portion is Aleph. What's the letter at the end of all the brachas? The letter at the end of all the brachas is no one knows. The last letter what's the letter that is the last letter when Hashem concludes saying all the brachas? No. The last letter of all the brachas is a Taf. So Hashem is telling you, as I'm giving you all the brachas. When Hashem starts saying the opposite of brachas, what's the letter he uses? It's the first letter. Ve'im starts with a Vav, and it ends off with the word Moshe, the letter Hey. The letter Hey and the letter Vav are next to each other in the Aleph base. So that indicates that Hashem, when He's giving the brachas, He's giving us all the brachas, Aleph till Taf. He's pouring it on. On the other hand, when He's giving the opposite of bracha, there's a Vav and Hey. There's a narrow gap between the Vav and the Hey. The Vav and the Hey are right next to each other in the Aleph base. Also, the letters Vav and Hey form one of God's names, the end of God's name, Vav and Hey. So that indicates, Vav and Hey. So the Vav and the Hey, no. The Vav and the Hey indicate how not only does Hashem tells us, I'm with you in your pain. As the Berditchever explains one of the psukim in this week's Torah portion, the Berditchever says, the pasuk says, V'yasarti eschem, I will pain you. So if you look carefully at the word, it says, I will pain you. I have pain when you have pain. So that's when the Torah speaks about the opposite of bracha. When it talks about bracha, though, it goes on, and one of the explanations of why brachas, although on the other hand, are very short. It's true that when the Torah describes the brachas, it's successive, non-stop in the narrative. You have this bracha, you have that bracha, you have this bracha, but overall the brachas are very short in comparison to the rest of the opposite of brachas. The reason for that, one of the reasons for that is that when someone asks you how's life, and you say life is good, that means everything. If something's bothering you, if your bank account's bothering you, if your health is bothering you, you don't say life is good. You say this issue, of that issue. When you say life is good, that's all inclusive. So therefore, the brachas are not sufficient to say this in a general way. But the opposite of bracha, Hashem says the details, because saying things are good is a more of an all-inclusive kind of thing. Also, the Torah here is telling us a system of chinuch, of education of children. The Torah is saying that unlike probably the way that and every civilization, the previous generation was educated, where there was a major emphasis on punishment. And the Torah, look at the way Hashem describes how He's going to give us stuff. What does Hashem say? I'm going to give you brachas and more brachas and non-stop. And when Hashem says the opposite, what does He say? Yes, if, maybe, I don't want to do it, but if you force me, I should give 7 conditions before he says anything negative. And even more, famously, the Alter Rebbe says, the Mittel Rebbe famously said that when the Alter Rebbe reads the Torah, he cannot hear any curses. Because the Alter Rebbe, when he read the Torah, you were able to sense the inner meaning of the Torah. And the inner meaning of all these words of the Torah aren't curses. There are brachas which are higher than can be explained by the regular words, and therefore they come down in the Torah in the language which is opposite of bracha, but really they allude to tremendous brachas. I heard today, I don't know if this is a joke or this actually says somewhere, it says, it says you'll eat the flesh of your children. Doesn't sound very yummy, right? Doesn't sound very fun. But I heard today, it means, very good. It means your children will keep Torah, the children will be religious, and therefore you'll be able to go to their house to eat their food because they'll observe Torah mitzvahs. There is, though, a teaching of the Alter Rebbe for sure. Alter Rebbe says 10 women will bake their bread in one oven. In our community, we saw actually a very positive application of that. Everyone's working together to help with various simchas that have happened and other needs. 10 women all working together with a lot of energy to.
Naomi making 10 people's challah in one oven, but she saw.
But the Alter Rebbe says it means the 10 spheres are burned up in the fire of the oneness of Hashem. The 10 spheres, each part of the neshama is consumed with this infatuation for her love of Hashem. The 10 spheres are burned up in the oven of Echad.
How does this have to do with 10 women?
Why dafka women have to do with spheres? I'm not sure. I don't know. So I'm not sure where it is. I think it's a pre-Peterburg Maimon. I don't know. Either way,
but this seems like it's a helam shebehelam. I mean, it's bad enough that I see a table and nobody boine shalom will be here. Okay, no mela, but here it's like it's going down into something that seems totally the hepech of brachas.
That's because these are such tremendous brachas that can't come down in a regular way. Like the famous story of Rabbi Eliezer, the story of Shimon Yochai, that he sent him to go to these sages to get brachas, and he got the opposite of brachas. And he asked his father, why did you send me to get these blessings? And his father said, these blessings are actually extraordinary blessings. He explained how all these things that he said really meant really incredible blessings. So, getting back to the prophecies of Yeshaya about the coming of Moshiach, how it's going to be such an amazing world, things are going to be so wonderful. How is it going to happen? So the Gemara says many stories about the sage named Rabbi Rav Chana. Rabbi Rav Chana, he has many amazing stories. The Rambam, Maimonides, says all these stories aren't real. They didn't happen, they will never happen. The Rambam says they're all parables. For example, it says in one of the stories, each one is more incredible than the other story. They were traveling on a boat and it was hot and they were looking for a place to cool off, and they found this island. They went to the island and the island had these trees, and they went to fishing and they cooked the fish, and when they cooked the fish the whole island lifted up, and they realized that they were cooking fish on top of a fish, a huge fish, and they managed to survive because they ran to their boat when the fish island, who had apparently been lying there for such a long time, so there was trees growing on him. But anyways, so Rambam says, you know what that is? That's a mashal. So it's not real; it's a parable. You know, when Shabbos comes in late, the rabbi is trying to get everyone's attention. What does he do? There's a parable. Wants to get everyone's attention. You can't say too deep Torah. To say just a parable, get everyone's attention. When I pass the computer over there, I think maybe I'll try to recharge the phone while I think it's losing battery over here. Anyways, so hey Faraz, Shalom Aleichem. Remember Faraz Yosefian from Gan Yisrael? No, he's over here. He's not over there. He's over here. Anyways, so the same thing could be said about Bais Mashiach. All these things that Rambam says when it says about Bais Mashiach, Yeshaya in this week's Torah portion prophesies that we're going to have all these amazing things happen. The Rambam says it's all parable. When it says a wolf will lie with the lamb, doesn't mean literally the wolf will lie with the lamb. The Rambam says it's a parable. It means the nations of the world will no longer bother us. We'll all live at peace. It doesn't mean literally the wolf will lie with the lamb. It's just a parable. Don't take it literally, says the Rambam. And what's Mashiach about? Mashiach means we'll live comfortably. There won't be any suffering in the world so much. The Jewish people won't be under the jurisdiction of the nations of the world. We're going to enjoy life. But it's not going to be these incredible, earth-shattering miracles. It's going to be normal. That's what it seems like from the Rambam. But the problem is, and so therefore you don't have to say that there's going to be amazing things happening. It's all natural things. The world's going to change, just like today they're able to produce enough food to feed the whole world, and the medicine's getting better, and people are able to sit in their air-conditioned offices instead of working on the field. So slowly but surely the world's going to get better. Everyone's going to enjoy life, and the Jewish people won't be subjugated to nations of the world. So it's all a natural kind of thing. That's what an eye says in the Torah, the wolf alive with the lamb. That's just a parable. The problem with that is, one of the 15 principles of faith, which the Rambam writes, which people say this every day, after davening, have accustomed to say this every day. What's one of the 13 principles of faith? What's principle number 13? Is the resurrection of the dead. So we're not just talking about things which are natural, almost miraculous, pseudo-miraculous. We're talking about such incredible miracles that make the wolf and the lamb look like child's play. So what exactly is...
billions and billions and billions of people.
Right. The people are going to get up and live forever.
Yeah.
Getting up...
Letter of the Rambam.
Huh?
I think there's a letter of the Rambam.
So how are we saying... So the Rebbe addresses this, and the Rebbe says that when the Rambam says there won't be any miracles, the Rambam is talking about the definition of Moshiach. For Moshiach to come, you don't have to have miracles. But of course, there's going to be miracles. Because there's going to be the resurrection of the dead and many other miracles. And the initial stage of Mashiach's coming, there's no need to have miracles. Mashiach does not mean a miracle. Mashiach means that we'll be able to keep Torah mitzvahs, that we're going to have the Bais HaMikdash, that we'll be able to do a little bit of renovation over there in the Temple Mount, and take care of some people which, instead of the United Nations saying all kinds of terrible stuff about Israel, they're going to all come around and serve the Jewish people and help us, etc. So that's the meaning of the Rambam. He's talking about the initial stage of the coming of Moshiach. But of course, there's going to be miracles. So what's really going to happen? It's going to be amazing. But the question is how? Where is it going to be so amazing? How is it going to happen? How? And the answer is very simple. In fact, it's so simple that the question is ridiculous. Why is it so simple? When you go and buy a 1985 Chevy, and you open the door, and you see the door comes, and the door flies off with your hand off the car, you're not surprised because it's a 1985 Chevy. However, if you just bought a Tesla S, X, go to Tesla X, and then you're going to sue them. What do you mean? You know that Tesla is made. It's made by people which are really very.
Actually, the doors go like this, so if it fell down, it's something totally.
So since it's in Hashem's world, since we're living, since God made the world, and God's perfect, it has to be the world was created to be perfect too. There's an amazing story about the name of Melech Lezhensk. Melech Lezhensk. It was one Friday afternoon. This guy came to the house of Melech Lezhensk, and he asked him the following question. He said, "I want to take God to court." And the Melech Lezhensk said, "Okay." You know, like you say, sometimes you say something stupid, and the person says, "Okay," like, "Oh no, what did I just say?" That's what happened. Like, actually, you know, maybe we shouldn't do this. No, you want to take God to court? Let's do it. Let's take God to court. So Melech Lezhensk says, "Sit down. Let's call the two other judges. We're going to take God to court. You have something to say to God. We'll take him to court. Let's see what you have to say." So he said, "I have a problem. I want to get married. I want to marry my daughter. Excuse me. I want to marry my daughter, and they just instituted this new tax, this marriage tax, and I can't afford the marriage tax. So no rabbi wants to marry off my daughter. No hall will accept my daughter and her suitor for marriage because there's exorbitant tax and we can't afford it. And I don't know which ruler had made this tax, Franz Joseph, whoever it may be, but we can't afford this tax. And how could God tell us He wants us to get married and to have children when it's impossible?" You ever had such a question? Different ways, right? So you ask Melech Lezhensk, "I want to go to court." He makes rules in his world. You can't keep the rules. It's impossible. So the Melech said to him, "Okay, we heard your claim. We're going to look in the Torah to see what Hashem's claims are. And the rule is, usually, when you have two claimants against each other in court, usually is, before we have to have the judges, the majority of the judges is the ruling, but before we get to the majority of the judges tell the two claimants to leave the courtroom, and then they discuss amongst themselves, and then they tell them their ruling. But here, Ramelech said, we can't really tell Hashem to leave the room, because the whole world is full of His glory. So you'll stay and he'll stay. And we'll discuss it while you both are here. So they're discussing the case, and they came to the conclusion that he's right. He's right. Hashem made a rule to get married, and it can't be. Hashem makes such a rule, and it's impossible to keep the rule. And Hashem has to allow them to. Hashem has to take away the tax. And this story happened 20 minutes before Shabbos, and immediately there was a psak from the government. The government is going to listen to the request of people and remove this tax. And by the way, this is not just a story that happened to Melech Lezhensk. The Rebbe told certain people in certain situations. They didn't say this as a instruction for Chassidim in general, but to take Hashem to court. There were certain times like a bezdin, the paskin. Isn't it? One thing though you have to be careful about this. Everyone said that you shouldn't make a promise to Hashem. You shouldn't make deals. You shouldn't say if Hashem does this, I'll do that. Why not? Because Hashem could always keep His deal. The human being may or may not. So therefore, if you want to say, you could say, I'll give tzedakah and this merit my son should live. The Gemara says you're allowed to say those words, but you're not allowed to say, I'm only going to give tzedakah if my son lives, because then you're entering into a deal you may not be able to keep. What? Oh, very good. So.
There's a story of a guy in New York that his sukkah blew away just before Sukkot. Like the tornado came and an older guy, an older love. It's a longer story than this, but basically you remember that's a story from a Rebbe that he
took Hashem to court.
So he says, what is I going to do? I'm an old man, I can't rebuild this sukkah, and I'm stuck now. What am I going to do? So he took the Hashem to court, and a guy that remembered him from some old age home they used to go to Chvesus, he figured out that this guy is going to need help, and he came by a little bit later. He says, I figured that I saw the tornado, I know the sukkahs from when I knew you was. I'm here to help you to rebuild your sukkah.
You had a story like that, Rabbi Kashem. You told me a story like that. The 7-day order, you had that happen to you. You told me, no? That happened to you? What happened? You know that story that people say they have a 7-day order the court to remove the sukkah? That story it happened to Rabbi Kashem, this story. Right? Not for now. Okay, fine.
It's the story with the rabbi that he said that so many people.
I don't know the details. I just know there's a story. There's a guy had a very hard time, hard time in raising funds for his institution, and the Rebbe said to make a bezdin, and the bezdin looked in the Rambam. The Rambam says that Hashem has to provide to Eden with the things they need in order to do their mitzvahs, and the bezdin paskin. But many times they were told that Rabbanan the paskin Moshiach has to come. Anyways, so question is okay. So the fact that the world will be perfect makes sense. The fact that people will get along makes sense because Hashem made the world. It must be a perfect world. It even says that when Hashem made the world, there's no such thing as trees that do not bear fruit. Why would Hashem make a tree? Why would Hashem make a tree that doesn't bear fruit? Hashem is perfect. Of course, the tree He makes is going to bear fruit. So Moshiach comes. It says all trees will bear fruit. What happened was there was a sin of the tree of knowledge, and the world lost something. The earth, which is the mother of the tree, was cursed, and therefore the trees also lost their ability to bear fruit. But the natural state of a tree is to bear fruit. Every tree. And so to the natural state of the animals to get along. Hashem makes a perfect creature. Okay, so if Hashem makes a perfect creature, so what are we doing here? So let Moshiach come. Of course Moshiach should come, but what was the point of this whole exile thing in the middle? Learning this morning an unbelievable thing. The Gemara says that Rabbi Yosef would make a party on Shavuos. Shavuos was his big yontif. And he would get 3 calves, slaughter 3 calves, make a party, and he said, if not for this day, how many Yosefs would there have been in the marketplace? How many Yosefs we have in this class tonight? I think we have 2 Yosefs. Okay. So if Yosef said, if not for this day, how many Yosefs would be in the marketplace? So everybody asks, I think, like 17 questions about this Gemara. But in this sikh that we were learning, only asked, I think, 3 questions. So we'll do those 3. Question number 1 is, how come he said, how many Yosefs, how many Joes would there be in the marketplace? Just say, how many people? What distinguishes him from other people? Why did he mention the word Yosef? Number 2, how come he's celebrating the Torah with eating steak? I mean, Torah is a spiritual thing, so why is he celebrating with steak? It doesn't sound like a good question, right? Okay, whatever, fine. But he's a Talmudic sage, he's not into eating it. He's not just looking for an excuse to eat steak. Why is he choosing to celebrate with steak? Number 3, how come he said how many Yosefs are in the marketplace? What's the marketplace? Why? So those are 3 questions. Avram, come here. Avram, I'm waiting for you. I'm waiting. Okay, the answer is ever so like this. Yosef means to add. The word Yosef means to add. To contribute something to the world. The Gemara says a person would rather have their own contribution, their own achievement, more than 9 times as much as getting it for someone else. They'd rather work and achieve rather than receive it for free, even if they get so much more. So before God gave us the Torah, there was Torah also. People studied Torah before. Avram studied Torah, Yosef studied Torah, and there are people that achieved something. For example, if the Nobel Prize team was around the time of Noach, they would have given Noach a Nobel Prize because he invented the concept of plowing and planting. He invented different tools. He for sure would have gotten a Nobel Prize. There are many people that contributed to the world. So how come? So Yosef said there were Yosefs before. There were people that contributed to the world before. But what happened now, when the Torah was given, there's a whole different kind of contribution that each of us is capable of. But after the Torah was given, there's a new kind of contribution. What's a new kind of contribution that's possible now? When you do a mitzvah, the giving of the Torah accomplished, when you do a mitzvah, you bring down to the world the infinite light of Hashem. Dir Tachteinu. You're bringing Hashem's infinity and you're changing the fabric of the world through every mitzvah. So Hashem told, so Yosef is saying, there's a marketplace. The marketplace, it means a place of place of
Plurality.
Thank you. And divisiveness. And a Jew has to reveal the oneness of Hashem in this place of divisiveness. And he has to make Hashem's oneness to be revealed here. That's the idea of Yosef in the marketplace. Yosef said, because Hashem gave us the Torah, we're able to add something to the world that's beyond the world. It's higher than creation. There were Yosefs before the Torah was given. But now there's a whole kind of contribution to the marketplace that every child does whenever he says a passover, whenever a child says come and telefo, whenever you give it tzedakah. And that's what we're doing here. By Yid living in time of Galus, which the whole point of the creation to begin with was only for Tchias HaMesim, was only for Bais Moshiach. As Alta writes chapter 37 in Tanya, but the way we get there is by us being here in this confusing era right before the coming of Moshiach, and bringing light to this place. That's what it's about.
But for tonight, because Yosef is the side, and the side should be the side.
And what's the temperature? Are we inside or ab? There's ab over there. All right. That's what I'm going to share tonight. Any questions, comments, criticism, tomatoes, cucumbers?
Eggs.
Huh? Eggs.